Great. So, Barbara, I'm gonna, and anybody else who's starting to join us, I'm gonna mute you all because I can hear all your speakers. I don't hear what you're doing in the background. So you will be able to unmute yourselves if you have a question for me. Let's hold off those questions until the end. But tonight, what we're going to talk about is we're actually going to talk about food combining and the importance of food combining. And just want to make sure that I'm still recording. I often do this and I realize I've forgotten to hit record and then I have to go ahead and redo the whole thing again. So food combining, it can be a little complicated, and certainly in the very beginning when we just start. So we're going to go over the concepts of food combining and the idea that some foods digest really well while others don't. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can look at something else besides just me. Great. So you should be able to see this. And as I said, for many, the concept of food combining is a little confusing. And that's the idea that some foods digest really well, while others don't. And this can be a little new and a little foreign for us. And can take a little bit of getting used to because it's not necessarily how we see things and how we do things in the Western world. But according to Ayurveda, it is an essential part of understanding how to eat properly. So careful food combining can dramatically improve the quality of our digestion. It can support our body in receiving a really deep level of nourishment, and it really does impact our overall health as well. But as I said, we are just not used to thinking that way in the Western world. It's a little bit different. And we're often accustomed to eating a number of foods that don't normally digest well together, such as fruit and nuts or beans and cheese together. So why does this matter? What on earth does this mean to us? Well, the Ayurveda perspective is that each food has a distinct combination of tastes and energies, and a corresponding effect then on both the digestive system and on the body as a whole. So combining foods with radically different energetics can overwhelm that digestive fire, can make it really sluggish. And we can end up with things like indigestion or heartburn, fermentation, gas, bloating, and then create those digestive toxins too. And that's why proper food combining is so important. Now, certain combinations are going to disturb the digestive tract more than others. So that's an important consideration if this concept is entirely new to you. And regardless of your habits or regardless of your symptoms, just paying attention to how you combine foods is really an opportunity for some more insight into healing and improved health too. So I am going to suggest that we embrace this idea of food changing slowly and gently. In Ayurveda, we don't want to do anything drastic. And many of us, when we first start a plan, we're like, hey, let me do everything. I just got to do everything right. And we need plenty of time to make necessary changes. So some of the changes in food combining are pretty easy. They're pretty simple. Others are going to require a major rethinking in our habits, or you're going to be absolutely adverse to do it. So if you're used to doing a fruit smoothie every morning, when I turn around to you and say that is an improper food combination, you may love your fruit smoothie, but it's still an improper food combination. So you may meet with some resistance too. But often, just simply developing an awareness of these improper food combinations that you eat regularly is just a great place to start. So I want you to notice which foods you combine that may be difficult to digest together and how often you eat those foods too. So become aware then of how you feel afterwards. That's probably the best measure for you. When you eat something, how do you feel? And then ask yourself what you've eaten. How does that affect your energy level? How has that affected your digestion, your elimination, the white coating on your tongue? And then also note, are particular combinations more adverse than others, or seem to have more of an influence than others? And these are all important pieces of information for you. And what that's going to do is that's actually going to confirm that the importance, if you like, of proper food combining. And once we know it works and our body starts responding well, then it's easy to start identifying the food combinations that are most disruptive to our particular systems. So when you're feeling motivated and decide that you're ready to start adapting your diet to accommodate more supportive food combinations, just tackle one change at a time. Perhaps you can start by eating fruits alone rather than in combination with other foods. Over time, you can gradually progress to sort of your goal or the most ideal that's right for you. And, you know, it would certainly be nice to avoid improper food combinations altogether. Just reducing their frequency can also be incredibly beneficial to you. So if you do find that some specific food combinations are more problematic for you or for your loved ones than others, then just focus on changing those ones in the beginning. The most important step is to become aware of your needs and your habits. And then from there, you can evolve into an approach to food combining that works for you as well. So let's look at this combination of foods. Now you have this list in your transformational wellness plan, so this is nothing new for you. But it is just meant to be a helpful guide. So this is not an exhaustive list. You may also be aware of other combinations that don't work for you. I was speaking to a client today who has many food combinations that don't work for her that are not on this list. And she's like, well, I guess I should have to eat those things together. No, if you know of foods that don't work for you, then don't eat them. But so, you know, just listen to those instincts, because this list is only a resource, but it's a resource that's meant to help you determine the optimal combination just at a glance. So it's a quick way to look at it. Now, the combinations listed in all capitals are going to be those that are particularly challenging for you. So anything on that left-hand column is not going to go with anything on that right-hand column. So if we look at beans, if we have beans and fruit, or beans and cheese, beans and eggs, or beans and fish, milk, meat, and yogurt, we're going to have problems. We're not going to feel so great. Maybe it's not a huge problem, and you might say, well, I eat beans and fish all the time, and I don't have any problems. But over time, you may, and I would also ask you, how do you feel after eating this? Do you feel a kind of sluggish, a little heavy, not so great? And then when we look at eggs, we don't eat eggs and fruit together. Well, many of us do. We don't tend to think about putting eggs and fruit together in the same bowl, but how many of us have a big plate of fresh fruit and then maybe an omelette afterwards, especially on the weekends? We're not going to put eggs and beans together, eggs and cheese, so that's our cheese omelettes. Eggs and fish, that doesn't even sound nice, eggs and fish, does it? Eggs and khichdi we wouldn't put together. Eggs and milk, and we'll talk in a little while about why that's not compatible. Eggs and meat together, so no egg on your steaks, or no egg and bacon together. And eggs and yogurt, and that doesn't even sound good, eggs and yogurt either. So fruit is a big one. Fruit as a rule we don't tend to eat with any other things, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but fruit is a very easily digestible food. So if we eat it with something that is not so easily digestible, we will end up with fermentation, and that causes gas and bloating and some acidity. Grains with fruit, so this is a big one. Many of us put fruit on our grains. If we have a bowl of oatmeal in the morning, often people will put fresh fruit, or they'll have a bowl of cereal with fresh fruit. Some people put things like bananas on their toast. This is going to create some problems. And then honey with equal weight with ghee. This doesn't really cause too much of a problem. It's not like too many people come to me and say, oh my gosh, can I put honey and ghee together? One thing we don't do is boil or cook with honey. So you can use honey to sweeten your tea. You can add it to hot water, but we're not going to boil honey in the water. We're not going to cook with honey because that does create toxins straight away. So honey and ghee together. So that's by equal weight, and that's by gram weight. So a teaspoon of honey with 3 teaspoons of ghee is perfectly okay, but you wouldn't put a teaspoon of honey and a teaspoon of ghee at the same time. Hot drinks, we wouldn't do with cold things. So just think about it. If you were to have a bowl of yogurt and a cup of coffee, it just makes you think it's going to curdle. It just doesn't even feel quite right. The body doesn't know what to do with a hot drink and a cold meal. So a salad and a hot tea, or a salad and something hot is not going to work. So hot drinks with mangoes, your cheese omelette with a cup of coffee, it's not going to make you feel great. If you have any kind of fish in a hot drink, it's not going to make you feel good. Lemon and cucumbers together don't work. And we wouldn't even normally think, oh my gosh, I'm going to put lemon and cucumbers together. But we will often have like lemon juice in a dressing maybe that's over a salad that's got cucumbers. Lemon and milk doesn't even sound, I mean, can you imagine just putting lemon juice in milk? You just know it's going to curdle. Yet we have lemon flavored yogurt all the time. Also not good for us. Lemon and tomatoes and lemon and yogurt. Melons are a fruit that do need to be eaten by themselves. So they don't really go with anything. So they're a great fruit to have mid-morning and mid-afternoon, or in the evening if you want. Normally about an hour either before or after a meal. Milk and bananas, a big no-no. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And pretty much milk and any kind of fruit does not go. And for the smoothie advocates amongst you, this is probably one of the biggest problems. And we'll talk about that one in more detail because it deserves being talked about in more detail. Nightshades. So our nightshades are peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, garlic. All these are nightshades, and white potatoes. And nightshades actually have they have an insecticide, a natural insecticide in their skin, which can affect a lot of people. It's great for the plant. It does it as a protective measure, not so great for those of us who are ingesting nightshades. So a lot of us can have problems with nightshades, and we should never put nightshades with melon, but then melon should be eaten by itself, with cucumber and dairy products. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Radishes and bananas. I'm not quite sure who would have radishes and bananas together, or radishes and raisins. Maybe a salad might have both in. And radishes and milk. I can't imagine why anybody would put those together under any circumstance. If you're a tapioca eater, no tapioca and fruit. We often see fruit and tapioca. No tapioca and beans, but we don't tend to put those two together. Tapioca and raisins, and tapioca and jaggery. Jaggery is a kind of sweetener. It's an Indian sweetener, tastes a lot like molasses. And then yogurt we don't do with anything, certainly not yogurt and fruit. And that was the whole reason that you jumped on this call, because it was called, yogurt and fruit. Why can't I eat these? And I put that because so many of people that come to see me and come into programs with me they've had yogurt. They think they're having a very healthy breakfast when they have yogurt and fruit together, or a healthy snack. So we certainly wouldn't put yogurt and cheese together, yogurt and eggs, fish, hot drinks, yogurt and milk. Often we'll put yogurt on top of meat, thinking it's healthier than sour cream, and yogurt and nightshades, which we've already talked about. So just take a minute to look over that list. And as you're looking over that list, and I know you already have this list, just sort of think, well, how much of this do I actually eat? Because it's very prevalent in our Western diet. So I would not be surprised at all if that is, in fact, what you're eating. So let's talk about bananas and milk, or really any fruit and milk. So we commonly eat bananas together. Banana shakes, banana ice cream, bananas and dairy just seem to go together in many ways. But they are challenging to digest because their qualities are so different. Bananas are heating while milk is cooling. So there's one problem. Further, bananas actually become sour as they break down. So they start off sweet in the body, but then the body processes it as a sour taste. So now our digestive fire has to process a sour substance and a milk at the same time. Remember when we thought about putting lemons and yogurt together, or lemons and milk, we just knew it wouldn't go. Well, now our banana has become sour in the digestive system. The body still doesn't know what to do with it. So, and you'll know this, you know, if you've ever added lemon to milk, you've seen that it curdles, or maybe you've poured a little bit of milk into a tangy fruity tea by mistake, and you can see it curdle instantly. So what happens to these mismatched foods, or these incompatible foods, is in the digestive tract, it's not much different either. When bananas and milk are eaten together, what happens is their opposing qualities tend to smother that digestive fire. It disrupts the balance of the flora, the microbes in the gut, and that results then in the creation of toxins. And we're going to get symptoms: gas, bloating, constipation, or diarrhea, burping. These are all symptoms of poor digestion. Also, this particular combination of bananas and milk together frequently causes congestion, colds, coughs, allergies, hives, and rashes. So any of those things happening to you, I'm not saying this is the cause, but just have a look and see if this is one of the incompatible foods that you're doing. And really, a similar situation can arise when we combine any sour fruit with any kind of milk. So then what do we do with fruits? Well, fruits really should be eaten solo. And the reason fruits are best enjoyed on their own is that fruit is usually somewhat acidic. It's fairly simple to digest. Fruits are really easy to digest, and they often digest really quickly. So when fruits are eaten with other foods, then there's usually sort of a discrepancy between the amount of time required to digest the fruit versus the amount required to digest whatever you've eaten that fruit with. So the fruit is inhibited then. It's going to digest much more slowly than what you've had with it. And then the fruit tends to move through the digestive tract too slowly. And that's when we get fermentation, we get gas, we get bloating. And in addition, we can get other things going on, such as really the potential to overwhelm that digestive system. So it becomes sluggish. It's not able to digest the food very well, and we don't feel good. Another combination is nightshades and cheese. And when I talk about nightshades, as these are the nightshades, eggplant, tomatoes, peppers, it's like, yeah, sure, I wouldn't have those with cheese. But when we see it on a pizza, we're like, oh my gosh, I do eat those things. And this combination is just way too taxing for the digestive fire. Your digestive fire is your metabolism. I want you to imagine, if you like, this fire inside your belly. And this is what digests your food. We want that fire to be strong, to be burning well, to be able to burn through your food so that you can assimilate the nutrition really well. If it's sluggish because it's overloaded, it's too taxed, then you're not going to be able to digest your food really well. So let's go back to our nightshades. So common names for nightshades: potatoes, white potatoes, not sweet potatoes, they're not part of the nightshade family, but white potatoes, bell peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, cayenne peppers too, paprika, tobacco is a nightshade. And then we get into other things that we don't typically eat, like belladonna, henbane. There are actually over 2,500 plants that are part of the nightshades. And the nightshades contain these alkaloids, very bitter substances. And these alkaloids, as I said, are primarily a means of defense against being damaged by insects. So they are a natural insecticide. So it's what the plant has evolved over time to protect itself. Now, these alkaloids, when we ingest them, often they can create a mild reaction, but some of them are actually really toxic to humans. As a result, we have cultures all around the world which have long held sort of this relationship, if you like, with nightshades. Some have been used to make poisons. Some contain addictive compounds like nicotine, which is a nightshade. Some are mind-altering, and others can create an incredible sensation of heat in the mouth straight away. The bottom line is that nightshades contain lots of compounds that once ingested, once we take into the digestive system, cause this sort of cascade of chemical reactions inside the body. Ayurvedically speaking, what this means is that all nightshades are believed to be difficult to digest, and they do have the ability to disturb all doshas. And when we mix these sort of inherently challenging nightshades with cheese, which is heavy, oily, and also difficult to digest, then this quickly overtaxes that digestive file. And that's quite often when we eat a pizza, not just a meat and cheese pizza, that's a whole other problem, but a cheese and nightshade pizza, because it's got peppers and tomatoes and onions on it, then we often feel sluggish. We often feel heavy after eating pizza, and that's the reason why. So dairy and fish. And a lot of people would say to me, ooh, I don't have dairy and fish. Well, yeah, you do if you like chowders. So no cheese on our fish at all. So no cheese on salmon, no cream cheeses on salmon or cream sauces on salmon. So just have your fish with lemon, salt, and pepper, and this, in fact, would be a great choice for you. And then dairy and meat. Don't we just love our dairy and meat in this country? So this is just too heavy for the digestive system. It's too heavy, it's too hard to digest, it's too murky. Have your meat, if you're a meat eater, with vegetables. Have dairy by itself, or dairy with vegetables, but dairy and meat together is going to make you really, really sluggish. Eggs and milk. So my recommendation to you is, if you have an omelette and you often put milk in your omelette, take it out and just use water. And if you have morning tea or coffee with an omelette, then you're going to need to take that milk out of or cream out of your morning coffee or tea. Again, this is going to be too hard for the digestive system. It's too heavy for the digestive system to be able to break down effectively. And then let's talk about yogurt. So yogurt is really difficult to digest unless you turn it into a lassi, and that's diluted yogurt with lots and lots of digestive spices. So yogurt clogs the channels. And yogurt and fruit is really considered to be a really bad food. So that sort of brings us all the way around to, so why are yogurt and fruit bad for you? Well, this is considered a bad food combination because fruit curdles the yogurt. That in turn turns the digestive process sort of sour and rancid. And then often what we find with yogurt and fruit is we get heartburn, we get an acidic taste in the mouth, or we get bloating too. This combination, although it's really popular, is also a channel clogger. So all the channels of the body are going to get clogged here. And that means we're going to create digestive toxins or armor. Many of you have already cleansed. So you cleanse to get rid of armor. This is a food combination that creates that armor. So we don't want that to happen, or creates those digestive toxins. So if you have digestive problems and you're currently eating fruit and yogurt together, then just take out this combo. You can take the yogurt out altogether and just see if you feel better. Now, generally, any dairy and fruit really don't go together with other foods. So they are loners and they should be consumed by themselves. You can have milk with non-yeasty grains. So yeast and milk doesn't go very well together. So you can have milk and cereal, but don't put any bananas or strawberries on the cereal. This is really important for kids too. So try avoiding this incompatible foods on your youngsters as well. And they're going to get sick much less often. So it's pretty intuitive. Drinking milk with fish, you know, that just kind of turns our stomachs thinking about it, doesn't it? So we put it into a chowder and we say that's okay. But if I was to say, eat this fish and drink this glass of milk, you'd be like, oh, I don't think I want to do fish and milk together. Guzzling milk with pineapple, that seems a little strange too, right? But for us Westerners, the biggest challenge will be not to combine fruit and dairy together, because that combination we just see everywhere. So just remain mindful about it, remembering that fruits are eaten alone, and it's pretty easy to stick to. Now, I do want you to remember that food combining is not about imposing black and white rules. It's just one among many powerful Ayurvedic tools for improving digestive health and overall wellness. So embracing that wisdom of food combining really slowly is going to help us to sort of cultivate, if you like, an awareness around how our dietary choices affect us. And this heightened sensitivity, this awareness, is really an invaluable asset, regardless of how quickly we're able to replace those improper food combinations. So be gentle with yourself, progress at a pace that works for you. And you might find it helpful on occasion to sort of reflect on your digestion. How do you feel, and your overall sense of well-being, and how has that changed over time as you have changed out some of these foods? So what proper food combining does is it tends to awaken the body's natural intelligence, its natural desire to want to heal itself. And what happens then is embracing good food combining gets easier and easier with time and practice. So food and eating is a pretty big topic in Ayurveda, so try not to get lost in too many details here. If you eat at the right time and according to your dosha, by choosing foods from nature that make you feel good, then this is just a fantastic start in itself. Your meals will become more unique to you as you plan ahead for what you need, as you start to incorporate these wonderful ingredients into your foods, and as you start looking at proper food combining. So I want to open it up here for any questions that you may have for me, and let me unmute in case you may have any questions about food combining.
I do have a question about oatmeal and fruit, because I thought I saw a recipe where the suggestion was with the yogurt you could use soaked raisins.
Yes, so great question. So dried fruit is a little bit different than fresh fruit, all right? Because dried fruit is more difficult to digest. Fresh fruit goes through really quickly. Dried fruit is more difficult to digest. So if we add that dried fruit to our morning oatmeal, not by sprinkling it on, but by cooking it, it plumps up with all those juices, and we can eat it at the same time because it's more difficult to digest. So now we have a fruit that's going to take longer.
Okay.
Dried fruit is a little bit different, but you're not going to, so you could put dried apricots in your oatmeal, dried raisins, prunes, dates, and a lot of people do. But what the big problem is fresh fruit here.
Okay.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just thinking about all these combinations that I've done all the time.
All of us. And just remember, one step at a time. So look at what you do the most And if fruit and yogurt is one of those, then say, I'm just going to experiment without fruit and yogurt this week and see how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So do it easy, do it gently. You're not sort of saying, I can't have these things, these are rules. They're not. As I said, it's a resource where you can have better digestion and you feel better. So all part of your Ayurveda toolbox.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's very helpful.
You are more than welcome. So next month's call is going to be on the right exercise for your particular dosha, and we'll look at movement and what movement does and the right kind of movement for each dosha and the time of day to do the right kind of movement. So that'll be next month's call, and each call is on the 28th of each month. So I'll be sending out links to that. This call will be, it is recorded, so it'll come out into your mailbox sometime tomorrow. So you also have it as a resource and a reference too.
Great. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Take care.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.